Hey, good morning, everybody. It is 10:41 a.m. Pacific time on the 17th of May, 2018, Thursday, if you will. I know you're thinking second stream in a row, right? Well, you'd be right about that if you're following the streams. But yeah, I think the video pretty much says it here. Uh, I know it sounds crazy to do a live stream on this, but yeah, pretty much. I'm here to talk about shipping, the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic shipping. As excuse me, as I felt that despite as many times that I may talk about it, on camera, recorded camera, like with my camcorder or audio wise, I thought I'd come on here and talk about it live. And as the description says, I want to talk about the various shippings in MLP FIM from the ones that fans support, they're on the fence about, they don't support, as well as some that they would like to see happen or finally be acknowledged. And I'll say this, with any kind of media out there, you're going to get a lot of people that they don't necessarily how do I put this? They don't necessarily support certain pairings or even support shipping in adapted media whatsoever. They they don't support adaptive media, like I said, whatsoever, and shippings in adaptive media whatsoever, because it's like if you're going to do romance and you're going to pair up certain characters with each other, just don't. Basically, the thing is, from what I can tell, is the more along the lines of if you're going to pair certain characters together, don't worry about what others say. Just go ahead and do it. Be like, hey, we're gonna pair these two together, and that's it. And there's going to be no argument after that. And usually a lot of media will have a valid argument, or at least come up with a valid story arc, whether it's a major one, minor one, a supporting one, that kind of validates why these two characters belong together. And then sometimes, romance or shipping, could be adapted into the media or into various forms of media, whatever, because, there's a lot of fan support for it. A lot of fans want to see certain characters together. They want to see certain characters. Hold on for a sec. Let me just tone this up a little bit. There we go. But they want to see certain characters. Just toning up the volume a bit. But they want to see certain characters together because of the fact that when I'm just checking something. They want to see certain characters together because of the fact that they might have a lot in common. That they might, like I said, they might have a lot in common, and they might work good together because of that. I'll give you an example. I didn't mention this in the description or in the tags, but you take a look at last season. During the season 7 finale, we finally get the pillars interacting with the main 7 on the main 6. And one of the most notable interactions is between Rainbow Dash and the pillar Flash Magnus, which is basically like a male equivalent. Excuse me. Which is said a cough come up there, which is like the male equivalent of Rainbow Dash. And you kind of see them really getting along together, like, hey, I like your style, because that's literally what he says at times. He compliments her several times, like when she says, "Oh, we've taken care of stuff before, we could do it again," or when they're ready to go off and take care of stuff, he's like, "I like your enthusiasm, I like your style," and a lot of people look at that as if saying, hey, if she can't be written in to be with Soren, this Flash Magnus character is probably the next best thing or the next best choice. I mean, even Midnight's Katie Peterson, Dill Wilsonator's fiance, also known as Midnight Sonata. I can't pronounce it. I do apologize. Even she said during the video that they put up where it's called deleted scenes. They were showing some scenes that they weren't able to get in the original Annalisa Broni's reaction video for the season 7 finale. She says in one of the deleted scenes there, she smells a new ship when that scene comes up. When Rainbow Dash is saying, after they figure out the plans of what they're going to do, Rainbow Dash is like, well, what are we waiting for? And Flash Magnus is like, hey, his response to that is, hey, I like your style. And what does Katie Midnight say in response to seeing that scene? She says, I smell a new ship. And what does Despio Dal Wilsonator say in response to that? He says, and if she's watching, I don't mean any offense by this, but what does Despio say? In response, he says, wow. No, I'm trying to remember what he says. He says, wow, knowing Sweetie Bloom, she's already all over that. She's going to be all over that already. Or something like that. Because Sweetie Bloom is like the shipping princess or queen of the Secret Rift or the Secret Rift Cafe or the Rift Cafe of that the main analysis community of MLP. She's the main shipper. She sees something potentially that could be romantically shipped together. She's going to find ways to logically, from what I understand, make it happen. So yeah, that's an example right there. But when you look at other ships, potentially, or from what fans have said, what I'm saying is when you look at other ships that have been showcased in the show, at least teased in the show, or at least from a fan's perspective, could be potentially good. There's a lot out there. There's a lot out there. As a matter of fact, I'm going to Google one of Applejack's ships. Hold on for a sec. Bray Byrne. Now, I'm assuming Bray is a cousin or a relative of hers. I don't really know. To look this up. Hold on. He's the cousin of Applejack. But yet fans would rather see him and Applejack together. It's like, now that might be, if you're like me, if you're like me from a Christian standpoint, you might say, seriously, you want to do incense between cousins? That don't make sense. I mean, I'm just looking at something here. I mean, that doesn't make sense. I mean, even Silver Quill kind of pointed that out when he did a review of Hearthbreakers, which was a Christmas episode back in season 5. And he acknowledged that that whole kind of like flirting romance kind of thing between Marvel and Big Mac. And he basically acknowledged how that would be kind of weird, seeing as though those two could potentially be related. And that's the same with Bray Byrne and Applejack. It seemed kind of weird since they're legitimately cousins. Now, Trenderhoof Trenderhoof is a different story. He came out in the episode Simple Ways. He developed an automatic crush on Applejack. So a lot of people might, go that route and think, hey, that's a good one. You know, heck, some people even might say, what about Applejack and Rah Rah? Carlatura. Carlatura. Some would go even that way. And that's another thing about ships. MLP presents in a way an opportunity, if not visually has shown and presented opportunities of having characters get together of the same gender. And for them to say, hey, Applejack Rah would be a good one, that's their opinion, because there is one pairing in the show, and if not the franchise, it's really gotten people like, you know, to them, it's like, really, Hasbro, really, DHX, you ain't fooling anybody. You pretty much should just come out and say, these two are a couple, just the way they act towards each other. They like spending time together. You should just say, hey, these two are an item. And that's Lyra Heartstrings and Bonbon, aka Sweetie Drops. It's like, why? It's like, why hide the obvious about these two? Why hide it? It doesn't make sense. That's how a lot of fans feel. I mean, you take a look at Equestria Girls, and they did a short focusing or featuring those two in their Equestria Girls form to promote friendship games, and it's like literally the ending kind of like gives it away a little bit. So it's like doing that short. I think it's doing that short, and if not doing the movie and stuff, it's like you're pretty much giving away the fact that these two are an item. So it's like, why not just come out and say it? And the reason being that they won't do that is because technically, even though you got fans like me that are in their late 30s, mid to late 30s, and others that are beyond that, and if not a little younger, technically to Hasbro and DHX, it's still a kids show. That's why they won't come out and straight out say Lyra and Sweetie Drops, Lyra Bonbon, if you will, are lesbian or an item or girlfriend. They won't say that. They'll hint at it, but they won't say it. Heck, there's a part towards the end of Do Princesses Dream of Sheep or something like that. In this one massive dream, which serves as like the climax of the episode, all the ponies of Ponyville are sharing this one massive dream. And pretty much we all know in dreams you could do whatever you want if you use your imagination. And there's a scene in there where Lyra and Bonbon are basically connected together, cat dog style, and they're happy about it. In fact, they even hug each other best way they can. And that's something right there. That's something right there that pretty much is a hint of, hey, these two are an item, but we DHX Hasbro ain't gonna directly come out and say it. But yet, it's one of the ships. It's one of the shippings in the show that fans support and want to have acknowledged. It's like, come on, seriously, you've been doing this for almost a decade now. You shouldn't be afraid of saying, hey, these two are an item. It's like, come on, seriously, all the evidence is there. I mean, there's even a book. There's even in fact, let me trying to see here. Is that it? Oh, I think I know which one it is. Hold on. And that's my phone. Let's see what it is. Oh, portfolio people. They never learn. No, that's not it. It's right here. I think this is, yeah, it's right here. It's number 3. Excuse me. It's the, trying to find it anyway. No, it's in one of the chapters. It's in this book right here. Well, here it is. It's chapter 4. It's chapter 4. You have Scootaloo's aunts are known as Aunt Lofty and Aunt Holiday. And this is where basically somebody came out. I don't know who it was, but they came out and said that this scene in this book here pretty much confirmed lesbian Uranus in MLP. Again, I don't know if you could probably read that very well. I don't know if you could probably read that. Sorry about that. I don't know if you could probably read that. But in this section here, if you could read that, it'd be great. I'm not sure you can. But yeah, if you can carefully read that, it pretty much confirms that there is lesbianness in MLP. But it takes a book like Ponyville Mysteries to acknowledge that. It takes a book like Ponyville Mysteries to acknowledge that, which is kind of crazy. But getting back on topic, in how it relates to Lyra and Bonbon, or Lyra and Sweet Drops, it's like you pretty much have all this visual evidence in front of you. It's like, why don't you just come out and admit that they are an item? It doesn't make any sense. And again, it goes back to what I said. The fact that even though Hasbro, DHX, and the creative staff behind MLP and its spinoff Equestria Girls know that they have a majority adult fan base, they still have to remind themselves that this is a kid's show, and some kids may not understand that. And if not that, they realize that not a lot of parental groups or parents who let their kids watch it, even though they may not be fans of the show or the franchise, may not appreciate the acknowledgement of, oh, hey, we have lesbianism hinted at or acknowledged in the show. You know, they may not like that. They may not appreciate that. So that's why, even though it's hinted at several times, if not many times, they're not going to come out, You know, they're not going to straight up and come out and say, "Hey, these two are an item." They're not going to say that. Um, you know, it's the same when it comes to other character, other kind of pairings and shippings fans would like to see. You know, like Starlight and Trixie, Twilight and Sunset, or Twilight and Moondancer. You know, they would, even though it's pretty much acknowledged or noticeable that there's some kind of attraction there beyond friendship. You know, Hasbro and DHX ain't, they're not going to come out and say, yeah, there's this between them, but that's about it. They're not going to say that. Because they got to constantly remind themselves that, yeah, we have a majority adult fan base, but our primary focus with the show and what the show is for kids. And kids may not understand it, or parents of kids that don't support that kind of, relationship may not be appreciative. So even though you have that acknowledgement out there, they're not going to, even though pretty much we as fans could see that, they're not going to they're not going to come straight out and say it. And some fans may find that disappointing, but this is why fans pretty much are very vocal in saying, hey, look, we understand the reasons why you may not say this or that, or acknowledge this or that, but we know better. We could see it. You're dropping too many hints. We know. It's cool. It's fine. We know, we get it. But then you have shippings that fans are kind of on the fence about. They acknowledge, but they're kind of on the fence about. And what I mean by on the fence is they understand why the shipping is there, or it's acknowledged or hinted at, but they're kind of on the fence of like, why, what is the purpose? What's the reasoning? They're kind of on the fence about it. It's like they want to understand it, but they can't. One pairing, one shipping pair that's kind of looked at three ways. Fans support it, they're on the fence, and they don't, and as well as there's groups that don't support it, is Spike and Rarity. One of the most popular ships in the history of the show, and it's been going on since about day one. It's been going on since about day one. And it's the fact, and the reason people are on the fence about it is the fact that a lot of people argue that Spike's a kid, Spike's a child. And that's totally understandable. It's like you don't want to encourage, pedophilia or anything like that. You don't want to encourage that. But here's the thing. This is a fantasy world. So anything is possible. Anything is possible. And like I said in a video, which is at 92 views right now, which is entitled, and this is the title of the video, it's called, "There Are Too Many Hints and Clues in MLP to suggest Spike and Rarity are not canon, because they are." One of the things I brought up in there was the fact that in a flashback, when Twilight is presented with Spike's egg, she's still a filly in Celestial School, or in magic school anyway. And when she tries to use her magic to hatch Spike from his egg, she hatches him all right, but she hatches him directly from babiness straight to adult dragon. And it takes Celestia using her magic to shrink Spike down to a baby dragon. Now, some might say, well, there's your answer right there. Spike got hatched by Twilight, thus, he's a baby. Here's the thing, though. Big difference is we don't know how different I know some people might say I'm looking for excuses, But we don't know how age works between dragons and ponies. We don't. You know, for all we know, he may be looked at as a baby dragon, but guess what? Let's take into account that the mixture of spells between what Twilight did as a filly and then what Celestia did may have caused something to stunt his growth, to stunt his how do you put it? His maturity. Well, not necessarily his maturity, but more along the lines as stunt his growth in acceleration to normal acceleration or normal growth to full adult dragon, or at least in his case, full adult dragon. Because that mixture could have basically stunted his growth to where even though he may look like a baby dragon, he's not. I mean, let's look at Secret of Excess. He basically tells the rest of the main six that the birthday he's having right then and there in Ponyville is the first one in Ponyville that he's had. Obviously acknowledging that he's had others before this, but we don't know what the age is. But we don't know how many. And for all we know, him and Twilight may not be that far apart in age. It may be a year or two. Because how old was Twilight when she went into Celestia's school? Maybe not as old as we think. Maybe not as older than Spike than we think. I mean, come on. Spike could have been an egg while she was still just getting her cutie mark. So they may not be far apart in age. True, Twilight treats him like a little brother or a son, but she has been his guardian since he was a kid. Since he was an egg. She's taken care of him even as a filly, which means she had to take care of him while she was still living with her parents. You kind of get what I'm saying? So she's taking care of him since a filly. And there's a lot of examples in real life, unfortunate circumstances or not, where someone of a young age has to take care of the family or has to take care of the siblings. And that's kind of like what Twilight's in. She's kind of in that situation where she has to take care of she had to take care of Spike even though she was still being taken care of as a filly. Kind of get what I'm saying? So technically, her and Spike are not that far apart in age if you look at it. I mean, if you look at it, her and Spike could be maybe a year apart. And then, like I said, the only thing that has kept, Spike from probably normally growing into a dragon that could be considered a full-grown adult, even at his size, is maybe the mixture of spells. Like Twilight's filly spell that she used to the filly to hatch him, but accidentally make him rapidly age a full-grown dragon, to Celestia's countering it and bringing him back to normal. So there you go. It's basically the fact. It's basically a strange fact of there might have been the spells on both Celestia and Twilight's part back in that flashback could have messed up his anatomy, his growing anatomy. And that's why only now in an upcoming episode is he starting to progress and, go through the changes that are necessary to be a full adult dragon. I mean, let's take a look at Smolder. Smolder has wings. She is part of the Student Six. Yet, is she treated like a kid? No. She is probably an adolescent teen, or if not a full-grown dragon that when you look at the school, because the school's been looked at this anyway, is attending college. And that's why that's why she's staying at the school because basically she's staying in a dorm, for all we know. The point is, Spike could probably be around the same age, maybe a bit younger than the main six. Let's be honest about that. Okay? Let's be honest about that. Because if that wasn't the case, then why would Lauren Faust and then a lot of the writing staff after that, Megan McCarthy, Jason Teresen, M.A. Larson, Josh Haber, all of them, why would they, even now Nicole DeBach, why would they continue teasing and acknowledging this pairing? It doesn't make sense. And again, this is one of those ships that fans want to see get acknowledged, whether they're on the fence about it, or they support it, or they don't. I mean, heck, Voice of Reason, back when he did his top 10 season 2 countdown several years ago, even said, hey, Secret of My Success pretty much said Spike X Rarity is canon. It's like, why would someone, a main player in the analysis community, come out and say that, and basically say at that time, if not still now, that he supports it? I mean, I Love KP a lot even supports it. Still, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure Sweetie Blue might support it. Because I think, in my opinion, I believe they know there's no way of acknowledging whether or not Spike's really a child. And you can't really say that now with the upcoming episode a week from this Saturday. You can't really say that when you think about it, because it's like, how can you say he's still a child after 2 weeks? After a week, after the episode premieres a week from this Saturday, and he's going through these changes. Why even acknowledge? Why even still say that? It doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? It does not make sense, and it shouldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, and it shouldn't make sense if you're still going to go with that excuse. And let's be honest. Let's be honest, okay? Let's be honest. All right? Let's be honest. Like I said in that one video that I did a couple of days ago, I did about a day and a half ago. Why do they always put Spike, when they do certain episodes throughout the series run, why do they always end up putting Spike in a story arc that also involves Rarity, or vice versa? Because they know fans want to see this pairing. It's like Lyra and Bonbon. They're not going to come out and straight up say, hey, Lyra and Bonbon are a lesbian couple, because they still got to remember this is a kid's show, even though they got the priority fan base is, full of adults about my age, younger or older. They're not going to come out and say Lyra and Bonbon are a lesbian couple. But yet we know they are. We could see it. They have too many hints out there. The same with Spike and Rarity, Sparity, if you will. We know that despite all the curveballs you can throw at us, despite all the potential teasings of who else they could end up with, Spike, Rarity, Sparity is official. But the only reason they don't acknowledge it is the same reason with Lyra and Bonbon not being acknowledged as an item. Because they got to still remember this is a kids show. And that kids may find that a little weird, if not kind of strange. It may not feel weird and strange to longtime fans and adults that could probably see the potential and maybe certain reasonings as to why it can happen. But yet, even though DHX Media, Hasbro, and the creative staff behind the show know that Spike and Rarity are pretty much an official couple, they can't come out and straight up say that because of the fact that this is a kids show, and they got to remember that kids may not, really understand that or even get behind that. they may not. And in this day and age, you have to acknowledge, in this kind of environment and day and age, you have to acknowledge that. You have to grow with it. But just like with Ponyville Mysteries, that pretty much comes out and say, hey, we have lesbian couples in MLP, in the MLP FIM franchise. The comics do something similar with Spike and Rarity. They will actually acknowledge that there's something there between them. Take a look at Nightmare Rarity arc. Spike is the last one to say what is necessary to break Rarity away from the control that the Nightmare magic has on her. And the last panel that we see at the end of that story, with the main six sitting on a hillside looking at Luna flying off and looking at the moon, and I think seeing the sunrise or something, who's next to who with a little heart shade emoji above them? Spike, Rarity. Even Voice says it's acknowledged in the series, in that comic book series, that this pairing is acknowledged. And it's all thanks to the episode Secret of My Excess and the Fire Ruby part there. But the point that I'm getting at is the show itself may not come out and say certain things, but the comic will. The comic or other books will. I mean, the only reason Spike didn't get turned into a teen in the Equestria Girls when he followed Twilight into the human world is because the writers don't. Because again, Equestria Girls, just like Friendship is Magic, is meant to be a kid's show, so they don't want to end up They don't want to end up adding more fuel to the fire. Sorry about that. I was trying to think of what I was going to say. They don't want to end up adding more fuel to the fire than necessary. That's why they had Spike get turned into a dog instead of being a teenager. Because they don't want to add more fuel to the fire. That's pretty much it. It's pretty much it. And that's why, even though, like I said, a lot of us know, we pretty much know, we're smarter. We are smarter than some people give us credit for. We know that this pairing is official. You don't see it acknowledged as much. I mean, you don't see it acknowledged as much as it should be. But yet you have episodes and scenarios where it's pretty much focused on, but not focused on in a way where you could say, oh, well, they're finally building upon the relationship and all that. No, they're doing it in a way that the adult fans like us can pretty much see it. We can pretty much acknowledge it. We pretty much know why this episode is happening the way it is. And why these characters are being, presented to us the way they are in these scenarios, we could see that, we can acknowledge that. We could see that. We can see that. We can acknowledge that. Know that. Inspiration Manifestation, Secret of My Excess, parts of Dragon Quest, parts of Gauntlet of Fire. Even that little moment, whether you liked it or not, where, in the last episode, a couple of episodes ago, in Horseplay, where you see the crowd, where Spike notices the crowd's getting restless, and Spike's like, there's no pony that's going to tame that crowd. Who's the one that counters him by saying, oh, really? No pony, you say? It's Rarity. You could have had Rainbow Dash do it. You could have had Applejack do it. You could have had Pinky do it. Fluttershy, maybe. But no, you had Rarity do it. Why? Because even though it may seem like, really, you're going to throw him to the wolves? The reason they did that is because it's their way of acknowledging the playful nature between the two, whether or not some may see it as playful or they don't. And the relationship, the dynamic between the two. That's why a week from now with Meltdown, you pretty much have them in scenarios where they're both going through situations. Spike's going through his situation, and Rarity's going through something a little bit not on the same level, but basically where she needs help. I mean, Spike's going through the changes where he's going to get a new addition to his, a new addition added to him. And Rarity is going through a situation to where she needs to get something cleared, if you know what I'm saying, because she can't, hear very well right for that moment. The point is, why would they do this? Heck, I'm not trying to give much away, but you even freaking start the episode with the two together in the forest, exploring, going on gem hunting, wherever. So why? So why even start the episode? So again, why acknowledge it if nothing's going to come of it? Why acknowledge it when pretty much as well as I do that the pairing is official? And like I said, the only reason they haven't come out and straight out said it is because they got to remember that the show is a kid's show. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of thinking, I got a lot on my mind right now trying to think of what I'm going to say. That's why it may sound like I'm rambling. But again, why acknowledge the pairing? Why acknowledge this pairing if it's not official? Why keep doing episodes centered around them or focusing on them if they're not official? Because they are. Again, it's the same thing with Lyra and Bonbon. The show, as the animated version of the franchise, they're not going to come out and acknowledge Lyra and Bonbon being together as a couple, as girlfriend, lesbian Yuri, because they got to remember the show is still meant for kids, even though a major portion of the fan base is adults. It's the same with Spike and Rarity. They're not going to come out and say Spike and Rarity are an item or a couple in a sense, because they still got to remember it's a kid's show. But yet you have the other adaptions, comics, novel, books, whatever, that will pretty much nod to it or say, yes, there is something there, or yes, these two are an item, or yes, these two are a couple in some shape or form. And that's a fact. And that is a flat out fact. But you know what? Let me counter with this. There's another ship that fans want to see. Silver Quill wants to see it. Sweetie Bloom would probably have no problem with this. Flash Century Twilight Sparkle. Need I say more? And you guys want to argue the fact. And, people want to argue the fact Spike and Rarity shouldn't be together because of this and that. Okay, fine. That's not a problem. But where's the argument about Twilight and Flash? People look at Flash and say, oh, he's a waifu stealer. Okay, fine. Fine. No problem. But answer me this. Why is it when Twilight goes into the Equestria world and she's turned into a teenager, does she continue a little bit of that flirtatious crush or attraction towards the human Flash Sentry that she had on the pony version of him before she, after she left? Or whatever, before and after, whatever you may say. Why? And that's my neighbor's dogs. My dog's just hearing them now, too. I don't know why they're howling right now. She hears them. But anyway, why acknowledge? They must hear the sirens going off or something. Ambulance sirens. But anyway, why tease this? Why tease or even acknowledge Twilight Flash when in fact the Twilight that Flash is actually getting attracted to as well, and Equestria Girls, is a full adult mare. Where's he? Wait, what's your counter to that? You might say, "Oh, well, she went into the human world. She became a teenager. Fair game." Really, really fair game, right? Fair game. So you're telling me the Flash Twilight ship is fair game, yet the Twilight he's falling for is basically a full-grown adult trapped in a teenager's body when she crosses dimensions. You want to say the same thing about Sunset Shimmer? I know some people are thinking, "Oh, great, they're going to put Sunset and him together." No, Sunset and him were an item anyway. Yeah, where's the argument on that? Again, I know some people might say, fair game, right? Okay, fine, fair game, if you want to believe that. But yet you have this teenage version of Flash Sentry dating or being attracted and potentially dating again two full-grown adults that are trapped in teenage bodies because they traveled across dimensions. Even with all due respect, if she's watching, even Sweetie Bloom would be like, "That don't make sense." You know what I'm saying? The point is, you want to do full-grown adult mare and full-grown adult stallion, Flash Sentry and Twilight together. That's fine. You want to do real, legit teenage Twilight with real, legit teenage Flash, or real, legit Sunset Shimmer whenever she may show up with real, legit Flash. No problem. But and again, as crazy as this argument may sound to some people, where's the argument there? Where is the argument about that? Huh? I don't hear it. So, and to me, it's like, it's kind of silly that people would be angry at the fact or counter and say, "Well, this is the reason it shouldn't happen between Spike and Rarity," when you have something similar with an adult mare Twilight trapped in a teenage body being attracted and vice versa to the legit teenage version of Flash Sentry. Same with Sunset Shimmer. I'm just saying, you can have you could validate that all you want and say, "Well, this is the reason," fine, no problem. But still, I understand fans want to see Twilight and Flash, but they don't want to see human Flash and human Twilight. They want to see pony versions of them, because I think they realize, wait a minute, Flash Sentry is getting attracted to Twilight, but she's actually an adult trapped in a teenager's body. That's why some of them are not happy when you have a potential teasing of Sunset and him getting back together, and it's like, why? Sunset's a full-grown adult mare trapped or in the disguise of a teenager. It doesn't make sense. Let me give you another example. 1988, there was a movie called Big. Yeah, if you've seen that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. A kid wishes to be older. He gets his wish. He meets up with this young woman that's about the age of his adult self. I think they share a kiss or two or whatever. They fall in love. But yet, nobody's arguing the fact that there's an attraction between a human kid trapped in a man's body and this legit human woman. That is until the ending, where basically he wishes to get back to normal. And she's understanding of that. But yet, doing that, we don't hear no argument, especially if you look back on it. I'm just saying, guys, you can say fair game all you want, and that's fine. That is fine. You could say, well, because they were this age or in this situation, it's fair game. Really? So you're telling me that now, since Spike is practically an adult after this season, so you're telling me since Spike's practically an adult after the season, him and Rarity being together are fair game? I'm just saying. Just saying, guys. I'm not trying to start an argument, again, this is one of the shippings that fans are three ways about. They want to see be made official and acknowledged. They're on the fence about because they see maybe the argument, and some don't like because they pretty much feel it's representing something that shouldn't be represented. And again, and look, I've talked about this before. I understand the whole situation behind the scenes and what happened to with a certain someone and all that. I get that. But even before that was brought to light, this pairing between Spike and Rarity had been going since day one almost. And again, if they didn't want to keep teasing it, they would have ended it sooner than later. They would have. They would have ended it sooner or later, but they haven't done it yet. And they still continue to tease it. I mean, heck, someone told me that the upcoming episode a week from Saturday is plentifully filled with Spike with Sparity moments. And again, why even go that route if you're not going to have these two together? Or at least acknowledge in some form or fashion that these two are an item. You know what I'm saying? It don't make sense. It really doesn't make sense if you're continuously teasing these two being an item or continuously teasing this pairing between Spike and Rarity. Why not just come out and say it? And again, I know I sound like I'm repeating myself and rambling. I do apologize. It's because of the same way with Lyra and Bonbon. Same thing. They can acknowledge it in the show, in the books, in the comics, but they're not going to be, but they won't come out and do it for the show because the show's watched by kids. The kids don't read the comics or the books as much as they watch the show. They don't. But then you take a look at other pairings. So, okay, I'm sorry if I went on a rant and rambled and repeated myself talking about that, but Spike and Rarity, like the title of my last of the video, I talked about it a day on the 15th of this month, a day and a half ago. It's like the title of that video says. There are too many hints and clues in MLP to suggest Spike and Rarity are not canon because they are. And it's the fact. There's too many hints, too many clues. So I look at it this way. If season 9's last season, Hasbro, DHX, Nicole DeBach, Megan McCarthy, whoever is listening, get off the pot and make this official. Either make it official or end it right here and now. Okay? We'll find some way to put it to rest. But if you're not, then make it official come season 9. Because if you're not going to connect Friendship is Magic with season 5 in some kind of soft retcon reboot, and season 9's it, clean slated. That's all I'm going to say. But again, you take a look at the other pairings besides Spike and Rarity, Flash Sentry and Twilight, Flash Sentry and Sunset, if you want to look at it that way. You got other ones like Soarin' and Rainbow Dash. Soarin' and Rainbow Dash is a pairing fans have been wanting to see since the moment Rainbow Dash's goal to be a Wonder Bolt has come into pass. I mean, fans still tease it, or fans still acknowledge it to this day, especially with the beginning of Granny's Gone Wild. They have a lot of clips and caption this and caption that moments from the beginning with screenshots from the beginning of that episode, I should say. Hey, it's like caption this screenshot or caption this screenshot. It's like, come on. Fans want to see this happen. I mean, even Silver Quill would like to see it happen. All because of the fact that, yeah, Rainbow Dash is a bit of a tomboy. Yes, in many eyes, she represents the LGBT community of the fan base. But she's still very feminine. In fact, when you take a look at Newbie Dash, when she does an impersonation of her friends, who does she impersonate when she goes up to Soren during that montage of impersonations? Rarity, Why? Because she knows Rarity is the most feminine, fashion-plated, and femme fatale of the group. And who does she imitate her in front of? Soren. And she even bats her eyes when she does it. I mean, come on, seriously. Fans need to get, I mean, not fans, but the show needs to at least acknowledge something there. They need to do something there. I mean, heck, you got Pinkie Pie cheese sandwich. We haven't seen cheese sandwich, what, since his cameo in the movie? Come on, seriously, put these two together. Fans want to see it. They do. I mean, Fluttershy and Discord are pretty much an item, but just like with Spike Rarity and Lyra and Bonbon, they ain't going to come out and acknowledge it. Oh, no. They might tease it. They might have other characters reference it, but they're not going to come out and say it. Why? Because even though the comics and the books may do it, the show's still a kid's show, and kids, in their minds, probably won't understand that or accept it. Or they might go, eh. You know. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, it's like, even though, like with Lyra and Bonbon and Spike Rarity, in a sense, it's full on right then and there in front of your face. It's like, really? You're not going to at least officially come out and say, yeah, these two are an item, the boyfriend, girlfriend. Really? You're not going to acknowledge that, huh? The comics and the books will, but you won't. Okay. Okay. Stupid, but all right. All because the kids watch the show and kids don't understand that. Or won't understand that. Okay. But yet, and then you have Applejack, and like I said earlier, any potential. Trendo Who, her own cousin, someone new maybe. Like, seriously? It's just silly, the fact that you have all these teases of shippings and couples and all that, and all the other mediums based around Friendship is Magic will acknowledge them, maybe even reference them, and take it a step further, but yet the show won't. The animated show won't. And yet, in the animated show, you have so many hints and acknowledgments and clues. It's not funny. And again, the shipping, I can understand shipping's fans want to see. They want to see Soren and Dash, and they want to see Twilight and Flash, and Spike and Rarity, and Pinkie and Cheese, and Flutter and Discord, because it's pretty much evidential in front of them that these pairings need to happen. That should happen, or at least be acknowledged, or something. And again, these are pairings that are also on the fence. I can see why some fans are like, I'm not too sure about Flash and Twilight. I mean, if it's a pony version of both of them, fine. But pony version Twilight as a human with human Flash, I don't know. It's like that. And, Spike Rarity, same thing. There's a lot of people that support on the fence and dislike some of the couples I've mentioned. But here's what I talked about in one video I did, audio-wise, during lunchtime at my job. I talked about the fact that last season, Sugar Belle and Big Mac became an item. This season, Mudbriar and Maud Pie became an item. Sugar Belle, we saw at the beginning, or towards the end of part 2 of the season 5 premiere. She is integratedly become a part of the subcast, if you will, what's the saying? The supporting cast. She's become a part of that, major part. You got an episode this Saturday that's continuing what started in season 7, which I believe is going to end in a trilogy with them being married off in season 9, if that's where they're going, between her and Big Mac. Then this season, you have Maud Pie end up with Mudbriar. So if you're taking two of the most popular secondary characters, supporting characters, in Big Mac and Maud Pie, and you're putting them now with people, and you're putting them in romantic relationships, then like I said in that one video I did during lunch, to me, it's a test to see how fans will react to romance being integrated into the show now, and they're testing it with these supporting characters in Maud Pie and Big Mac. So if they decide to take it to that next step and start integrating romance with the main 7, main 6, main 7, then maybe fans will be more accepting of it. Like if they do decide to do Spike and Rarity, it may seem strange to some fans, but they'll be more accepting because at least they know, hey, romance is a thing now in the show. I mean, not saying it hasn't been before. You know, we saw that with Cadence and Shining Armor, but the point is not with characters that have been around since season 1. I don't know, season 4, whatever, for several seasons, and now all of a sudden you decide to put them in relationships. You know, it's like to me, the people, I'm honestly thinking they're realizing, hey, it's now or never. It's like, if we got one more season, we might as well test the waters to see what happens. And if fans are accepting of it, maybe we can move on to the main 7, main 6, and go from there. And that's why if they decide to do Spike and finally acknowledge Spike and Rarity as an item, make them official couple, that even though some fans may not appreciate it or like it, they'll be more accepting of it because now they can see that romance is being integrated into the show. Same with Rainbow Dash Flash Magnus or Rainbow Dash Thorin, you know, or Pinkie Pie Cheese Sandwich, or even Twilight Flash or Twilight Somebody New, or even Fluttershy Discord. If next season some of these are officially acknowledged as romances and as couples, it's because of the fact that this was slowly tested on in season 7 and now in season 8 with Big Mac Sugarbelle, Maud Pie, Mudbriar. That's about it. So, you know, that, so to me, if you're willing, so to me, when I look at that, I'm like, okay, you're willing to test it here with characters that have been around since the early days of the show or halfway through the show. And now you're putting them in these relationships. That's why, to me, when it comes to romance and shipping, you know, people like Sweetie Bloom and others that are behind this kind of stuff, they'll look at it like, hey, maybe there's a chance. And I think there is. I think legitimately there is a chance that the main 7, main 6 will finally get some romance thrown away around season 9, if that's the final season. I really do. I mean, heck, you take a look at Starlight Glimmer and Sunburst. They're two BFs, if you will, best friends. And yet a lot of fans are pretty much saying, you know what? Why not put them together? Why not make them an item? And, you know, I think, honestly, they're going to. Because, you know, some people may say Starlight's part of the main cast now, main 7. But is she really? We didn't see her in the recent episode. Who knows? But the point is, well, who knows what she was doing? Maybe she had a day off. We don't know. But the point is, you know, you take a look at these two characters, and it's like, okay, we could see them as a couple, as an item, because they got a lot of chemistry. They've been friends for a long time. The next logical step is to put them together. And you got this upcoming holiday special, Christmas special at the end of the year. What happens if these two end up under the mistletoe and she ends up kissing him? I'm just saying. So, you know, to me, you got all these different ships out there. You know, you even have people shipping the main 7, main 6 with each other. And that's their opinion. And the show pretty much provides a lot of fuel for that. And like I said, the show provides enough fuel for that. It does. It provides a lot of fuel. But again, like I said, and for those that are joining, I'm just talking about the shippings in the show and how certain shippings are not acknowledged because they may be acknowledged in the comics and in the books, but as far as like the show goes, it's not acknowledged at all. But even though we have plenty of hints and clues and teases here and there, it's all because the people at DHX and the people behind the show have to remember that this is an animated kids show, and kids may go blah or whatever or not understand. Period. So it's more along the lines of they it's more along the lines of the reading material is more lenient than the animated show. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's kind of like with the Legend of Korra, and I know some people don't want to hear that acknowledged. The Legend of Korra, especially towards the end, pretty much acknowledged Korra and what's her name as an item, but they didn't come out and say it. All we know is they walked hand in hand into the spirit world, and it took after the show was done, almost a couple of days afterwards, for the creators to acknowledge, yeah, Korra and this, I can't think of her name right now, the other girl, the other woman, are an item. They are a couple. They are lesbians together. It took after the show was over. It's the same way with this, in a sense. You could pretty much see all the evidence there for a lot of these pairings that we've talked about throughout the past 7.5 seasons to be legitimate and everything, but yet the creative staff behind the animated show won't come out and say it because technically, even though they have an adult fan base, majority of the fan base is all adults and could see it with their own eyes. They still have to look at it as a kids show, and that kids won't pretty much acknowledge or understand the pairing between, Lyra and Bon Bon, or the potential, if not legitimate, canon pairing of Spike and Rarity, and Fluttershy and Discord and all that. So, but yeah, again, getting back to what I was just saying, fans, the show pretty much provides plenty of fuel for the fans to ship the main 6, main 7 together. I mean, I mentioned Starlight and Sunburst. Fans would like to see Starlight and Trixie, or Twilight and Trixie and Twilight. I'm just saying because they look at these characters and like, hey, these characters have chemistry. Why not just make them an item? It's the same with Applejack and Rainbow Dash. It's like, even though they'll bro hoof each other and get along and have this friendly rivalry, which everybody saw in non-compete clause, to be brought back up, people will still ship them because they're the most tomboyish out of the group. And they're kind of similar, and they have chemistry. The point is, when it comes to MLP, romance shipping is pretty much an open door, not just for the overall. Not what I'm trying to say is, it's pretty much romantic shipping is an open door, not just for the creative staff behind the show, not just for the creative staff behind the comic or the books like Ponyville Mystery, but it's an open door or overall for the fan base. And when the fan base feels that there is a pairing that needs to happen, or they feel is probably the best option romantically, they're going to go with it. End of discussion. But when it comes to certain pairings that they know should at least be acknowledged as being official, by the show itself, at least the creative staff at DHX and Hasbro themselves, mostly at DHX behind DHX Media, when they know that there's a pairing that should be at least officially acknowledged, they're going to do whatever it takes to have that acknowledged, to at least build up that moment to where finally the creative staff will say, yes, this is official, and stop teasing it and stop teasing it and doing this and that. I mean, again, like I said, if the books if the novel books like Ponyville Mysteries and the comics will at least acknowledge something like that, then there is no doubt that the show itself, and I apologize for whatever sound that was. It was probably me. I don't know what it was. Uh, but like I said, pretty much, you know, if the show itself, I mean, not the show, but if the comics and the novel books themselves will acknowledge it in some shape or form, and then you have the writers behind it acknowledge it as well, then the show shouldn't be ashamed to do it. And if the creative staff is waiting till after the show is done to say yes, everything you guys suspected or thought was true was indeed true, and they come up with some other explanation like, yeah, the reason we couldn't really go that way is because this is still a kids show, then fine, understandable. But come on. If you have fan, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, if you have fans that can pretty much, as clear as day, see that the teasing of Spike, that the Spike Rarity Sparity pairing is pretty much canon since day one, if not since Secret of Excess came out. If they can pretty much see that, whether they like it on the fence or they don't like it, then why can't the creative staff? I mean, you are dedicating an episode a week from Saturday to pretty much this pairing. I'm just saying. And you're probably going to be doing the same later on down the line with another episode. So why not just come out and say it? If Fluttershy and Discord are looked at by the fan base as an item, and it's pretty much clear as day there, why don't you just come out and say it? If Lyra and Bonbon are an item, why don't you just come out and say it? I'm just saying, folks. I mean, you even have Vinyl Scratch, aka DJ Pone 3, and Octavia Melody looked at as an item as well. I mean, you could look at them as sisters because of the house they live in or share, but pretty much people look at them beyond that. They look at them as more, as not sisters, but as an item. So if that's the case, why not at least acknowledge that? I'm just saying. The point is when if you know that what you showcase is as clear as day when it comes to any romantic kind of like teasing, shipping, hinting, cluing, whatever. And the only ones that will come out and acknowledge that romantic pairing's existence is your comic books and your novels. Fine. It pretty much shows that they have a little bit more leniency than you do. But here's my advice to Nicole Dubach and the creative staff behind the show right now. If season 9, as well as Megan McCarthy, if season 9 is the last season, here's what you do. Go all out. Go all out. Acknowledge the romance and the shippings. Do what you have to do. Be done with it. I know some people will say that they kind of have acknowledged it at times. Yes, that is true. But seriously, you need to come up with some stories or episodes to at least tie these up once and for all. Because I look at Spike and Rarity and I say to myself, if you're not gonna, if you're pretty much gonna avoid the idea that these two are officially an item in some shape or form, then you're only fooling yourself. If you're gonna ignore that there's an attraction or something between Soren and Rainbow Dash or Rainbow Dash and Flash Magnus, you're fooling yourself. Same with Fluttershy and Discord. You need, I mean, if you're gonna pretty much use Mod Pi and Big Mac as your testing subjects to see how romance will fly with semi-major characters, and you're planning to take it to that next level with the characters, then do it. But do it the way you know fans want to see it done. Do make certain pairings official. Make Spike and Rarity official. Make Rainbow Dash with whoever she's with official. Make Fluttershy and Discord official. You get the idea. You get the idea. But Hasbro, DHX, Megan McCarthy, Nicole DeBach, Jason Teresa, and anybody else involved, Josh Haber. It's time, as the old saying goes, it's time to put up or shut up when it comes to these pairings. You either officially come out and say these are official, or you stop the teasing and just move on. Because I'll say this. Fans are still going to pair and ship who they want to ship and pair who they want to pair. And whether we agree on the fence or we don't agree, there are certain pairings that will still be in existence even till the day the show ends. And I hope and pray you make the right decision. I hope and pray you guys make the correct decision and at least acknowledge some kind of officialness of romanticness between Fluttershy Discord, Rainbow Dash Soren or Rainbow Dash Flash Magnus, Spike Rarity, and whoever else you want to come up with. Pinkie Pie Cheese Sandwich, Sunburst Starlight, you name it. All I'm asking on behalf of a lot of the fan base is if you got one more season in you, and this season and last season were your testing grounds, then it's time to put that theory and that test to the test next season. So that's really all I'm going to say on the MLP shippings. Thank you all for watching live. Thank you all for watching post live after it's been uploaded. Let me know what you all think down below. I'm going to check some comments right now. See what people have had to say. And that's the noon alarm, and that's the noon horn going off right now here in Newman. Apparently nobody really had anything to say. Hey, but yeah, that's all I'm really gonna say on the matter. See if anybody said anything here. I only have a couple of likes. That's about it. But again, let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I'd like to hear from all of you. And really, that's all I'm going to say on the matter. So until next time, God bless. Take care. I am out.